All right, we're live. All right, welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight for a public hearing being held by the Joint Redistricting Committee, joint between the House of Delegates and the Senate. We're going to start. I'm going to ask everybody to stand. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Bill Anderson to lead us in.
If you would join me, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks again to everybody. We're all excited by the turnout tonight. We've got a very strong turnout. This rivals probably, for attendance anyway, every other public hearing that we've had, and this is the 11th. We'll follow the same process that we followed previously. I'm going to start by introducing my colleagues in the Senate who are here, both those who are part of the committee and those who are here who are not. And then I'm going to turn it over to the co-chairman, Delegate Howe, to my immediate right, and he will introduce House members who are here in attendance tonight. So first, I am Charles Trump, and I serve in the Senate in the 15th District from Morgan County. At the head table here to my left, beyond Senator Jeffries, we'll start with Senator Caputo is here. Mike, raise your hand. You just did. Senator Caputo represents the 13th Senate District, which is Monongalia County and Marion County. His home is near Fairmont. Fairmont is what Senator Caputo considers to be a suburban Reevesville, which is his home. To the far left of the table down there is, to my far left, is Senator Phillips. Senator Ruby Phillips is a senator from Logan County. I believe it's the 7th district, and so Senator Phillips represents Logan, Lincoln, Boone, parts of Wayne, I think, as well, parts of Mingo, parts of McDowell County, no McDowell. Logan, Lincoln, Boone, Mingo, so Senator Phillips is a member of the committee. Coming back this way, to my immediate left, we have the two senators from Putnam County. To my immediate left is Senator Glenn Jeffries, and he is elected in the 8th senatorial district. Is that right? And the district includes part of Kanawha County and part of Putnam County. And to Senator Jeffries' left, one over from me, is Senator Eric Tarr. And Senator Tarr chairs the Senate Finance Committee. He's elected in the 4th senatorial district, which includes Putnam, Mason, Jackson, part of Roane County. All right, and we had Senator Woolfolk was here earlier. He's standing along the wall. Everybody can turn around and see Senator Woolfolk is elected in the 5th senatorial district, and he represents Campbell and Wayne counties, and his home is Huntington. He's joined us tonight. So now I'll turn it over to Delegate Howe, Chairman Howe, to introduce House members who are here.
Thank you. I'm Delegate Howe. I represent about 2/3 of the population of Mineral County up in the Eastern Panhandle. I serve as the chairman of the committee. To my right, we have Delegate Rurbach, who is from Cabell County. We have Delegate Westfall, who's from Jackson County. We have Delegate Capito here in Kanawha County. Delegate Scaff here in Kanawha County. Delegate Anderson from Wood County, and they all serve on the redistricting committee. Also here, but not serving on the committee. We have Delegate Barrett, who's here in Kanawha County. Actually, I believe all these are. Delegate Pushkin, Delegate Dean Jeffries, Delegate Young, and Delegate Britt. And I don't think I've missed anybody. Diana. Diana is you're Kanawha and Putnam, I do believe.
Yep.
So Delegate Graves. I turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Howe. Okay, we're going to get started in just a moment. I'm going to go over some of our ground rules of operation. So, as everybody knows, every 10 years following a decennial census, the legislature is obliged and required under the state constitution to redraw districts for the U.S. House of Representatives, the West Virginia Senate, and the West Virginia House of Delegates. And so we're moving along in that process, and we decided that what we wanted to do early on was start a process of public hearings for the purpose of eliciting from you, from the citizens, your views, thoughts, ideas, suggestions on what districts should look like for the next 10 years for those three legislative bodies, 2 state and federal. When we started this process over a month ago, we did not have data from the U.S. Census Bureau. That was delayed this year. Normally it's provided to the states in April of the year following the census, and it was mid-August before we were able to get it. And so we've had a little bit of time to try to work with it and understand it. But that's the data we are required to use in endeavoring to draw legislative districts. Our purpose here tonight is to hear from you. And so we'll follow the same protocols that we followed in our other public hearings. We had a sign-up sheet, and looks like we've filled it up. We've got more than a dozen people who signed up to speak, and we're grateful for that. And we'll start, we're just going to work the list from the top to the bottom. Typically what we do is allow everybody 5 minutes to speak, and we have somebody keeping time here. You see the little red light at the end of the table, so when you see that come on, that means it's time to close your remarks so that the next person can begin to give his or her comments. And we'll go through that process, and we'll invite everybody who signed up to speak and tell us what he or she feels is most important for us to know. So, beginning now, starting with, I'm saying that says Cheryl Wright is the first person signed up to speak. Right, B-R-I-G-H-T, and I believe Cheryl is the county clerk in Jackson County, is that right?
Yes, that's right, Jackson County Clerk.
Welcome.
I just want to thank you guys, first of all, for taking the time out of your days, because I know you have business to take care of and things that you're taking time to listen to our needs and our concerns, and I appreciate that. But I just wanted to speak a little bit tonight about, in Jackson County, we have 3 delegate districts currently. We've got the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th. Our 11th delegate district is in the southern part of the county. We have 3 precincts in that particular area, and I think that could probably suit us well if that was just kind of all blended in to one delegate district other than have that separation there. I support that for a couple of different reasons, really. I think it would help us in cost in elections. It would keep us from having to have so many different ballot styles, so that would cut the cost. And not only that, we would have a local representative for, the biggest portion of the county there. And I have not heard anybody have any negative input as far as that goes on that particular issue. There's also some lines between the 12th and the 13th that could use cleaned up a little bit. We've got an area where there is a housing housing development, Woodruff Acres. It's, the biggest portion of it is all in one delegate district, but then we've got this little section that just kind of cuts off a couple of streets there. So, you know, you've got a few people living on this side of the street in this particular subdivision in one delegate district, and then you've got the other, the whole rest of it in another district. So I think if we clean that line up, moved it around so that the whole development could be in the same delegate district, I think that would be good. And then we've got an area, Evans area, where people have, we've heard complaints. You know, they want to be able to vote in the closest polling place to them, obviously. And they can see a polling place from where they live, but because of the delegate line, they have to drive to the next community to be able to cast a ballot. So I think moving those lines over just a little bit and taking in just a little section of South 40 Drive, a few connected streets right there, would go a long way toward helping those people, and I think they'd be pleased with that. It'd probably affect maybe 200, estimated 200, give or take, people there in that particular area. And then, of course, you know, based on the changes, there'll be a few precinct changes that we'll have to make as well, and I know that's coming, and we're prepared for that. But having these lines cleaned up, so to speak, streamlining those things, I think it's going to make our voters happy, for one thing, and I think it's going to help in the cost of our elections and that sort of thing. And while there's no plan that's going to be absolutely perfect, I think what we're looking at and what we're talking about in Jackson County is going to go a long way toward making a lot of people happy. There is no perfect plan for anything like this, but just tweaking a little bit in our areas, cleaning up some of those lines. Of course, that area that runs along the river, that's been the 13th delegate district, and it can remain that. We just need to move the line just a little bit, just to help a few people who live in that area, clean it up a little bit and not have it so chopped up in particular areas. And that's been a problem, I think, for a long time. It's hard for people to understand that they can see a polling place, but yet they have to, you know, because they're in a different delegate district, they have to drive down the road into the next community to be able to cast their ballots. But so I think that just small tweaks like that in Jackson County will help a long way to help our voters, make them feel like that their voices are being heard, because we hear the complaints from them, and of course, and you know, we're trying to bring that to their attention as well. But I think just the bringing in those last 3 precincts in the southern part of the county into one, and then moving those lines just a little bit in between the 12th and the 13th would go a long way toward helping our voters and probably make a lot of people happy and save the county a little bit of money in the process. So, again, that's all I have to say. I just want to thank you guys for listening to us and really taking our concerns to heart. And I think it's important. Of course, everybody likes to have their voice heard, and we appreciate you guys listening to us and listening to our concerns. Thank you.
Ms. Bright, thank you very much. Thank you for your remarks. The next person signed up to speak is Don Kinnery.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll be pretty brief. My name is Don Kinnery. Been in Charleston now for about 30 years by way of Louisiana. And I'm a retired engineer and designer. I'm an associate member of the Kanawha County Republican Executive Committee. And my only offering is a brief point is that I'm in favor of the single member delegate districts for the House of Delegates. And aside, my point is I think that will help in self-determination and accountability. And so, other than that, my only point that I would make is that my lines of delineation are a bit more ideological than geographical. I feel like seeing ordinary people getting involved, rolling up their sleeves in the local political process is very healthy for our country and our nation. And my feeling is that the Declaration of Independence is not a document that lives on eternally unless it's supported by the hard work of ordinary working citizens. On that point, I will thank you once again and yield.
Mr. Terry, thank you very much for your thoughtful comments. The next person signed up to speak is Gary Zucker. Gary, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Senator Trump and members of the committee. My name is Gary Zucker. I'm Executive Director of the West Virginia Citizen Action Group. And I'm here to testify on behalf of our members who live and vote in every U.S. congressional district here in West Virginia, in nearly every delegate district. This is a critical issue that we'll have to live with for the next decade, obviously, so we want to get it right. Drawing new districts is admittedly a technical task with computers, cartography, census, and other inputs. However, I think some general rules for new redistricting should be as simple as 1, 2, 3. Number 1, keep our communities whole. As the first speaker said, we need community districting that as much as possible keeps counties, cities, and regions intact with sensible boundaries that doesn't have a Senate district looking like a snake wandering across 2 or 3 counties, or a congressional district that starts in the waters of the Potomac and ends up on the Ohio River. So I'd like to see more compact general districts there. Number 2, we need fair districting. Voters should pick their lawmakers, not the other way around. Until partisan gerrymandering is finally made illegal, our legislature must lead by example to build districts that follow rule number 1 and not carve out swiggles that favor one party or another, one delegate or senator over another. Our democracy demands nothing less. Number 3, we need complete transparency at all levels of this process. I'm hearing that legislative staff is already drafting maps and taking input from legislators on their districts. This is being done outside of the public view. The legislature should act now to ensure that all map requests are made public and that the public has a meaningful opportunity to review maps as they are being drafted and comments to them at appropriate points in the process. We feel this simple 1, 2, 3 approach will ensure fair, community-based districts which will serve us well throughout the new decade. Let's make West Virginia a leader in this districting process and show the rest of the country how to do it right. Thank you very much.
Gary, thank you very much for your thoughtful comments. The next person signed up to speak is Alex Urban.
Thank you. My name is Alex Urban. I'm here with Robin Godfrey, and we're appearing on behalf of the Kanawha County Executive Committee. I'm here to speak on behalf of the committee and the officers. And Kanawha County Democrats have grave concerns regarding the reapportionment of the congressional and legislative districts in West Virginia. We strongly believe that redistricting must be fair and equitable to West Virginia citizens and guided by law, equity, and reason. It would be misguided for our state legislature with its Republican supermajorities to manipulate district lines to benefit any particular legislator, political party, or special interest group. In our republic and our state, voters choose office holders. That is how we ensure Mountaineers are always free. When lawmakers draw district lines to further entrench political power, when they are gerrymandered, some votes will count more than others. Gerrymandering skews election results, makes races less competitive, and hurts our communities. The result is tyranny, usurpation, and public policy that ignores the will of the people. Legislators, in tune with their constituents, have nothing to fear from a fair and equitable redistricting process, It is my hope our legislature works in a transparent and open manner with the goal of true West Virginian values in sight when redrawing West Virginia's congressional and legislative districts. Please make all records, including the technology and methodologies used to draft districts, accessible to the public. I urge this legislature to form a nonpartisan, independent commission to develop congressional and legislative districts. Lawmakers would still vote on the results, but politics could be removed from the mapping process, a welcome thought in 2021 America. Lacking that, West Virginians deserve equal apportioned districts that maintain cities, communities, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the fullest extent possible. We deserve districts that do not serve any one political interest, and where the voters choose the politicians and not where the politicians choose the voters. I hope that you take our words into consideration, and I thank you for your time.
Mr. Urban, thank you very much for your comments. The next person signed up to speak is D.L. Hamilton.
I still have my red bandana because I enjoyed the centennial of the Mine War, the Blair Mountain battle celebrations. So, and I otherwise wasn't dressed for here because I was at an event for the Mansion Compromise. And then I looked down and like my sister called, was going to bring me fresh corn. And I thought, power to the people. There's no better way to give people power than fair redistricting. And I happen to know a lot about it because I was the legislative counsel for the Redistricting Committee in 1990, which is somewhat like this year in that we went from 4 to 3 congresspeople, and now you are going to have the difficult task of going from 3 to 2. And there's going to be a lot of phone calls to each of you about how you need to do that. And there's going to need to be a lot of compromising between all the redistricting lines you need to draw. So I thought I would just come as I was because, but back to the Mansion Compromise, I'm going to go off topic a minute to say I hope you are in touch with Senators Manchin and Capito because redistricting doesn't really matter without voters. And so everything you can do, part of that bill is about bipartisan redistricting, voting rights, election finance reform, which you know how much we need to make a free and fair election. So as the redistricting committee, you have a huge role in making elections as nonpartisan, and now I'm going to talk about counties because you are used to my sister coming to you and talking about counties. But West Virginia is known by counties. You know, we're one of the few states that we say what county we're from, although I agree with the person that talked about keeping communities together as well. And it's difficult to be up here when we don't have any numbers. I know you are required by law to hold these public hearings, but things are difficult, especially in the time of the pandemic, and I understand why we're having this somewhat premature public hearings without numbers. I'm sure Thornton Cooper is frustrated because he's going to be down on the floor of whatever room he draws, perhaps the least variance districts, because he did that in 1990. But I'm sure your able counsel will be up to date on the various laws about the variances that are allowed. But I wanted to draw your attention to a recent Supreme Court opinion, and a unanimous opinion, that involved the resignation of Derek Evans after the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. And they had both the County Republican Party and the State Executive Committee County had submitted names to the governor, and the chair of Wayne County filed a writ of mandamus with the Supreme Court, and in a unanimous decision, that writ was denied. But it is a very interesting opinion that I urge all of you all to read that gives a fairly detailed history about the constitutional requirement, Article 6, Section 6 of your state constitution, that makes delegate districts be counties. And Thornton and I also had kind of a friendly argument about single-member districts. I know there are good arguments on either side, but I'm not totally sold on the single-member district because I think if we can keep county lines and keep within that variance that I think is plus or minus 5%, maybe 2 or 3 delegates and keeping the county, Monroe's not going to get more than 1, because if you have less than 3/5 of the 100, 100 districts into the population, then you're going to get your number for the minus 5 plus 5. And some counties just pay attention to the county lines. Try to adhere to them. Your single-member district is just a law. You can change it if you decide that Clay County can have 1, Wayne County can have 2. Think about the integrity of counties, because how the court, with a precedent, says that the variance depends on what are legitimate state interests. And you can't get a more legitimate state interest than a constitutional requirement in your state constitution. And they would look at that, and it would help. Because when you're all trying to explain your districts, you know what a difficult time you have. Saying, I've got this part of this county and this part of this county and a little teeny corner of the other county. And that's not West Virginia. West Virginia is 55 counties, and I just hope you make that important. And I urge you to read that decision, because I'm going to tell you another thing, that it might not be the redistricting committee, but it's something the legislature will have to deal with. Now, it used to be that you had multi-county districts, and that was a delegate district for those counties that had less than 3/5 of that number that is the population divided by 100 for the House of Delegates. But I like county lines for Senate districts too. I don't mean to leave out you senators. When you have that variance, now I lost my place. So, well, one is some counties, there's one thing with single-member districts about the minority influence district, and that was another legitimate state interest. And we drew the first minority influence district in 1990. It was District 37, now Delegate Pushkin's district. And if you're doing single-member districts, I really encourage you to look at the areas of the state that do have significant minority population. There are probably some in Mercer and Berkeley, more in Kanawha, and I urge you to look at that particular precedent that allows drawing of lines. I'm out of time, aren't I?
You're a little over.
Okay, but I got the one thing that I wanted to remind you of that will be for the legislature is the reason the writ was denied is that there was no provision for how to fill a resignation in what the unanimous Supreme Court termed an intra-county district. Because before, you were either a multi-county district or you were a county. And if there was a resignation in the county, then the county executive committee filled that resignation. But in Wayne County, a little piece of Wayne County was over in a Cabell County district, and so there was no provision for it. So I hope you will read that opinion and take care of that problem too in your 2022 legislative session or your special session, whenever you do this. Thank you.
Gail, thank you very much for your comments. It's great to see you again. And I will echo, I believe that I think former Senator, current Justice Wu is the author of that opinion, and it is fascinating. The next person signed up to speak is Heidi Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. My sister is a hard act to follow. I'll do my best. My remarks are to remind the legislature that once your redistricting job is done, it goes to the county commissioners and the county clerks. And they have to establish precincts and magisterial districts based on the new delegate and senate districts. It's kind of, the way to look at it, it's kind of the county clerk's job to pick up the pieces of the puzzle and put them back together to fit in the county. The change to 100 single-member districts is going to be a big change for several counties, so that's another level of work. Counties have to make sure that their precinct lines coincide with delegates and senate districts and make precinct changes if necessary to balance population. At this time, they're not sure how they'll be receiving the data. The most helpful data for clerks is the small census blocks. Last time, after 2010 census, they received it in the small census blocks. It had square miles and population per block. And then when they combined the precincts to create magisterial districts, it created a population total so that magisterial districts could be evenly balanced as much as possible in population. And a lot of people don't really know what magisterial districts are. They have nothing to do with magistrates or the judiciary. Commissioners must run by magisterial district. They're elected by the county, but only one commissioner can represent a magisterial district. And that's really about all they're used for. There also are several new county clerks who have not been through a redistricting process. So that's another level of difficulty. But most counties have a plan. Many will be relying on working with their assessors in their 911 centers. And one thing that has really upgraded since 2010 is their mapping abilities. So that will add some technological help for the county clerks. I know you've heard a lot about gerrymandering. I've been following the hearing discussions in the news. But gerrymandering, it creates a lot of problems, but it creates problems for getting all of this accomplished. The less logical the redistricting, the harder it is to establish precincts in the magisterial districts. And the lines are crazy, it makes it very hard for them to establish that. County clerks also pointed out to me that the more districts in a county, the more ballot styles they have to have, which is more expensive and creates another level of work. So the fewer the districts within a county and the more things coincide within a county, the better off the county is in getting their responsibilities accomplished and having fewer ballot styles. So thank you for considering this really important work that has to take place after you all do your work. And I'm not exactly sure what the deadline for that is, but there's not much time. So any assistance that could be provided by as the Jackson County Clerk recommended, nice clean lines are very helpful. So thank you very much for your time.
Heidi, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments and for your input. We're grateful for you to see you and the both took the time to share with us information. The next person signed up to speak is, I believe, James Henshaw.
How you doing? First, I want to thank you all for taking the time to let us come down here and speak on the redistricting issue. My name is James Henshaw. I'm a lifelong resident of Kanawha County. I live in Nitro, currently reside in Nitro, and I think my house district is District 35. And I think we have 4 delegates in that district. I don't think one lives in the area that I'm from. And so I'm here to advocate for single delegate districts. And a single delegate district would not only increase accessibility, but also provide a local advocate for people who understand the character and the politics of the people they live in the community with. So, for instance, if there's businesses or something struggling, particularly after, say, COVID and stuff, that all this stuff we went through, and they may need some assistance, well, they'll probably know it because they live in that district. They shop at those stores. Or if there's problems with road, like with roads, they're hitting those same road hazards that we are. So it also in those specific districts, it allows maybe the little guy to throw his hat into politics, maybe less expensive to run in like a smaller district there. So I just hope as you go through this redistricting process, you take into consideration the single delegate districts. And that's all I wanted to say. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanchel. The next speaker is Eli Baum.
Thank you, Chairman Trump and Chairman Howe and all the members of the Redistricting Committee that are here this evening. My name is Eli Baum, and I am the Advocacy Director with the American Civil Liberties Union of West Virginia. Throughout the country, the ACLU and its affiliates are watching the redistricting process. We're watching for transparency, and we're watching for fundamental fairness, with a particular emphasis on any attempts, deliberate or otherwise, to dilute minority vote. Here in West Virginia, what I really want to talk about is transparency, and I know some of the previous speakers have already alluded to this. I'm also aware that redistricting is already taking place by legislative staff, as I'm sure it needs to happen in this relatively short time that you have. It's my understanding that staff is already taking input from members of the legislature as to their input on what these districts should look like. This is concerning because, as far as I can tell, there is no public transparency to this. This does not fall under the Open Meetings Act, nor do these requests have to be in writing so they be subject to any Freedom of Information Act disclosures. This is seriously concerning as far as transparency goes and raises the specter of gerrymandering, whether or not that's the case. And while there will be a public special session to approve these districts, there's certainly concern that there will be a lot of inertia to accept districts as they're already drawn or with only minor changes, particularly with regard to the public budget, not wanting to prolong the session, and the very basic schedule that I know all the members here have. So certainly can't go back, can't undo what's already been done, but moving forward, I would ask all members here to consider ways and processes that we could make the process as the maps are being drawn more transparent and more open, and any requests that are being made by legislators for what their district should contain or what their district should look like, subject to freedom of information or publicly available, so that everyone knows that this is being done on the level and with concern to compact fair districts and not political considerations. The only other point that I'll make is, as I've heard other people reference, the ACLU does strongly support independent redistricting, and as we finish this process and we have another decade before this process goes again, this would be a perfect time for the legislature to re-examine that topic and consider that for a piece of legislation moving forward. Other than that, I thank you very much for your time and for being here today to listen to everyone.
Eli, thank you very much for making time to share your thoughts with us. The next person signed up to speak is Julia Galloway. Julia, the floor is yours.
Good evening. All the other speakers have talked about the very broad spectrum idea of redistricting. We live in the 36th district in South Charleston. And I'm just going to talk about a very discrete issue where it comes to where I live and our constituency. We currently have 3 delegates in our 36th district, which as a constituent and as a voter makes it very difficult for us to know who of those 3 delegates do we go to when we have local problems. I'm not talking on it loud enough?
A little closer to.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that I think we need to, from my perspective, I'm just talking about a single constituent in my area, which is the 36th district, And we currently have 3 delegates in our district. And currently, as a voter, I don't really know who to go to for whatever problem I might have because they're all spread out. My only point here is to be very short, and then I request that we just have 1 delegate per district to make it simpler for individuals to know who their representative would be, and it also will make the delegate's job easier when it comes time for them to canvass and to promote their campaign. They would only have a smaller area to focus on. They won't have to use a lot of media and expensive advertising to reach those people that they want. So that's basically all I have to say, is just I request that we have a single district areas for single delegate districts. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person signed up to speak is John Dahl.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Julia's husband. I, of course, believe I share her opinion. The one thing I wanted to point out, one thing I wanted to mention, it's been discussed or said twice now already this evening, is that multiple delegates for a district is cheaper administratively. However, I have a hard time accepting the decreased or degraded government services that are available to me, the complications that are that ensue from having multiple representative delegates when it comes time for me to try and get my problems with the state agency resolved with the help of the delegate or voice what my opinion is. It's hard to go cheap, in my opinion, considering that the state has got a fold-up rainy day fund, at least according to Treasurer Riley. He told me that the other day, that we've got $1 billion surplus rainy day fund. The state's got AA credit rating. We can afford to pay the extra money, in my opinion, to be able to have improved government, or at least improved representation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dahl. Next signed up to speak is Nathan Jones. Jones, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the rest of the members of the Joint Committee. I regret that I haven't been able to see the population figures, so I can't offer any of my ideas on some specifics in redistricting. But I wanted to come here today to let you all know that I am personally in favor of nonpartisan independent commissions for redistricting. And I also wanted to ask you to ensure that all public meetings and hearings are open and available to the public going on. I'm glad that you have this here tonight and the public was able to attend. But it seemed like it was hard for citizens to stay informed during the last legislative session. And I fear that that might be a problem again moving forward during the next. So I just ask that those remain open to the public so that we can all know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Okay, next on the list to speak is David Howe. Mr. Howe, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Why is single member delegate districts important to me? Mr. Chair, I want to draw your attention to the map directly behind you, the bottom map, and point out the fact that it reminds me of a first grade abstract art project. You know the kind where the teacher gives you a blank sheet of paper and you draw abstract shapes, and then you get your crayons out and you color each box a different color? That's what that map looks like. You talk about gerrymandering, that map epitomizes it in my book. I didn't know at the time in first grade that Miss Blaylock was probably giving us all that lesson in how to gerrymander a political map. Delegates should be, as my friend Don Holstein pointed out, a delegate should be someone you run into in your neighborhood. Now, my delegates in my area are Larry Rowe, great gentleman. I've never met and talked to Larry Rowe, and he was not the first-rate gentleman. Mr. Jim Barrett is one of my delegates. I hear you are a black belt, is that true?
That's right. Great.
Yeah, congratulations. I have nothing bad to say about you.
Very wise, very wise.
And of course, my good friend, Chris Pritt, is one of my delegates. But my point is, as much as I know these fellas, I have yet to run into them at Walmart. I have never run into them at Go-Mart getting gas. I have never run into them at any dollar store in my area. We just haven't run into each other. And you guys can attest to that fact. So we really should have delegates that is from our areas and that we have a connection to. We should have a shared culture. For example, our delegates in my area should have to drive behind a coal truck every morning to work. You should have to experience that. You should have to call Dean Jeffries at least 4 times a year to explain how a lump of coal busted your windshield for the 4th time. Our delegates in my area should not go to a gun range to fire any weapon. They should instead go up, get on your 4-wheeler, go up on a hill, and shoot your gun there. We don't use gun ranges in my area. Delegates in my area should know what it's like and the frustration of sitting out in your yard on a Saturday or Sunday, beautiful evenings, and then get choked out by your neighbor who's burning garbage in a 55-gallon drum, and then wishing, oh, how I wish that DEP worked weekends or after 4 p.m. Delegates in our area should know what it's like to live next to an unlicensed junkyard in your neighbor's yard. Delegates in our area should know what it's like to go for walks without sidewalks, walking on the side of the road and literally playing a life and death game of Frogger as traffic zips through to and fro. Our delegates should share our heritage. For example, my ancestors, and when I speak about my ancestors, I'm speaking about my family, I'm speaking about my friends, I'm speaking about my neighbors and their relatives, those whose shoulders, as Mike Stewart said, the shoulders of the people we stand upon to be where we're at today. My ancestors were machine gunned by co-operators and Baldwin Phelps detectives on a train they dubbed the Bull Moose Special, shot into tents, into women and children. My ancestors, I have an ancestor who is buried at Estelle of Common Creek in donated land because there was a curfew put upon the citizens there, and his wife was pregnant and he had to go out after dark to get a doctor. And a Baldwin Phelps detective agency started stuff with him, and it ended up culminating in a gun battle where the guy got killed. And the coal companies owned all the land there and refused to let him be buried in any of their land. And the town of Estelle had to donate a piece of property for this man to be buried. And his grave is still there in Estelle today with a chain link fence around it. That's what kind of ancestors I have. My ancestors, oh, I'm sorry, I've run out of time. Just to finish it up, Mr. Chair, I plead this committee to stop this gerrymandering and give us the district that we deserve. Put Bell, Malden, Grand in as a veteran community of Charleston in the Charleston districts and give us representatives that we deserve. Thank you.
Mr. Howe, thank you. Next person signed up to speak is Is it Tressa or Teresa? Teresa. Teresa Howe.
Yes.
Ms. Howe, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to thank the whole panel and all of you all for giving us the time and the transparency to engage and talking to the general public. If you've ever known poverty or hunger, as I see in areas of the 36th House of Delegates district, and have the determination, your goal is to break that cycle. This is imperative in understanding the need for single delegate districts in our state. And in the 35th and the 36th that I'm in, they have multi-members. In the last 7 years, I've opened my eyes and came to the realization there is a difference between a standard politician and a public servant and the impact they have on West Virginia. With this in mind, in the time for redistricting, I ask you to deliver single-member delegate districts, as it is time to move the needle a little further for accountability instead of abandonment. Also, as we lose a congressional seat, I ask that you look at the commerce for the state, and I don't know if it would be better to divide it with the north and the south line, so consider that because of how they will go above and below. I also ask that you look at the current state of the map and see that the precincts will be neighboring and without the appearance someone has cut through, like they're cutting a piece of cake when you're 10 years old, to cut that piece out that they want to get that looks like a piece of gold with that flower that's on there. I've heard a lot of issues about gerrymandering, and I want to point out that we are now a legislature that has actually flipped in the state, and it's been controlled by the Democrat Party for almost a century, for over 8 decades. And so I hope that the concern lies more for the people of West Virginia and what we can do to move our state to another level as the nation looks towards us. The one thing that I do want to point out is that you have a 23-member panel from the House, and both of the people from Kanawha are from the Charleston area. One's Charleston and one's South Charleston. So there we go, the consideration is, I hope that you keep in mind the rural areas and the needs of those people as well. So in closing, I want to thank you for your transparency. This is great. I've actually looked at your maps online and printed those off so that way I could see them. I see where the holes are at, to where you got pieces have been carved out from the decades of what's happened with redistricting. And for each of you to step up and serve regardless of party affiliation. I really appreciate you all. I know that you work very hard for our state. So it's time, again, as I said, to move forward. The nation has all eyes on West Virginia. Thank you very much.
Ms. Howe, thank you very much. We're grateful for your comments. The last person signed up to speak, at least on the list I've been given, is Thornton Cooper. Thornton, where are you?
Right here. Whether it's bandana or Humana mask, so I'm wearing the Humana.
Mr. Cooper, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome, members of the legislature, to my home county, Kanawha County. I know you all work here. This is where I grew up. You all heard me say I've been to all but one of the meetings, and as I've told you before, I have participated in redistricting after the 1980 census, the 1990 census, the 2000 census, the 2010 census, and now this census. I've already submitted a congressional redistricting plan, which is in either direction 24 from perfection, which divides the state along southwest versus northeast, not north-south, not east-west, but southwest versus northeast. You already have that. I also have been working on the state senate redistricting plan and would have turned that in today. I'm not using Magnitude, the expensive redistricting software used by the legislature. I'm using Days Redistricting. And so when I was getting ready to publish the map, I noticed they had a minor problem in tabulating some of the districts. They were off by 0.07%. They came up with 1,200 more people than there were in the whole state. So I said, I'm a perfectionist. It's going to be right. I may have to wait till the figures come in for the masses, the 16th or the 20th of September. But you will have a state senate redistricting map, whether it's before the last session next week or later, you will have it. I am 60% through the House of Delegates redistricting map. And I can assure you that my House of Delegates redistricting, to the extent I can do it, look as much like a ball as possible. They do not look like a lot of these really strange shapes that are on their website. So I'm working on that. But with respect to Kanawha County, as I suggested 10 years ago when I submitted my plan, I want to keep all of Charleston in the same senatorial district. Charleston and Huntington have about the same population. We have all of Huntington in the 5th senatorial district. I want all of Charleston to be in 8th senatorial district, along with South Charleston and what we call the Upper Kanawha Valley, although it is actually to the south. It's elevation. Upper means elevation, not latitude. Then I want to put all of Putnam County in the same senatorial district. I know we have 2 senators here who live in Putnam. I want to put you all in one county and combine that with the western part of Kanawha County. One of the worst things is it's the same problem with multi-member districts. We hardly ever get anybody elected to the state senate who doesn't live in Charleston. I'm quite happy to be in with Charleston since I live in South Charleston. But under my plan, we have all of Putnam County, all of St. Albans, all the Nitro part of Kanawha County, the unincorporated areas of West Dunbar and Institute, all of Dunbar, and Cross Lanes, which is unincorporated. They all be, under my plan, be the 6th senatorial district. So I've worked on that. Putnam County does not have a community of interest with the rest of the 4th senatorial district. If you look at the history of the 4th senatorial district, it was basically a very rural district. The year I was born, it was basically the counties that are in it now, but you also had all the counties that were on the northern boundary of Kanawha County. And I think Putnam County in 1950 had something like 19,000. It now has well over, in the upper amount of 50,000. Its community of interest is not with the rest of the 4th senatorial district. Its community of interest is with Cabell County and with Kanawha County. Kanawha, Putnam, Cabell, as I stated at a previous meeting. Brooks McCabe and I ran against each other for the state senate when Kanawha County had the 17th all around Kanawha County. And although we disagreed on the level of metro government, the one thing we agreed on was that Putnam, Cabell, and Kanawha are one economic zone, and they should all be, to the extent possible, put in the same senatorial districts. His plan was to put them all in the same county, and I thought that was a little bit much, but I do not, I'm just making this recommendation. I think that's what you want to do. So I plan to see you all again next week, if possible, in Parkersburg. I am working. I've heard people say there is an independent commission. You do have me. I'm independent, and I can assure you, if you look at the plan I submitted 10 years ago, it is not partisan. I had Democrats running against Democrats. I'm a big supporter of single-member districts. I put Democrats running against Democrats, Republicans running against Republicans. I don't care about protecting incumbents. That's the whole problem. That's why we end up with these terrible plans. We need to have plans that are based on the interest, the community of interest, and also, I want to make this point. My goal is that with my plan to you, there will be less, the total variance will be 1%, not 10%, as allowed in federal quake law. 1%, both with the House of Delegates and the state Senate. Thank you.
Gordon, thank you. And we're all glad that you didn't have to travel far tonight. For the other folks here, I feel obliged, since we're in Thornton's home county, to verify. He has come to every one of our public hearings. Well, this is our 11th. We've got one more scheduled for Parkersburg next week. But Thornton, we're all grateful for your input, and we respect and admire your interest in this issue, along with everybody else. Now, Thornton was the last person who had signed up to speak, and I'm just going to cover the light for a second so I can see. We have a little time left. Is there anybody who would like to speak to the committee who had not signed up to speak? I see one hand. Without objection, please come forward and introduce yourself. Tell us your full name and on whose behalf you appear, if you're here on behalf of a group or an organization.
Thank you, Senator, for your indulgence. I arrived sliding into home plate at the last minute, was unable to get on your list. My name is Bill Sohanich. I happen to be here representing 4 counties that currently are the 10th senatorial district at the request of our Democratic Executive Committees. I happen to be the chairperson of the Fayette Democratic Executive Committee. Tonight was to have been our regular meeting, and 3 weeks ago we decided we wanted to come en masse as a group to this meeting. Subsequently, the COVID scenarios we've had, most of my members unfortunately have compromised the immune systems, and they said, no, we can't. So I was asked to come as a spokesperson for that group. We in Fayette County specifically, and in the 10th, greatly fear rumors abound that Fayette County will be chopped up in many ways, shapes, or forms, and rumors are rumors, but I was very involved in the 2010 redistricting process. Went to every meeting at that time. We specifically were thrilled at the creation of the 10th senatorial district. We believe that uniquely, as you all may know, it comprises 4 complete counties that are of great like interests, counties that are compact, counties that are contiguous, counties that have compelling economic reasons to remain together. We are a hotbed for park and now state and national park tourism within those counties. When I frequently am asked where I live in a small community, and I'll just say, to make it simple, oh, have you ever heard of the coolest town in West Virginia? I'm referring to Fayetteville. And they say, oh, you're from Lewisburg. And of course, both have received those nom de plumes in the past, but don't forget Hinton as well, mind you. But we in those 4 counties feel that we are unique in the fact that as far as senatorial districts, in the 2010 redistricting, it was ballyhooed as the perfect district. We haven't changed too much population-wise within those districts. I still believe that it greatly makes great sense. We share so much. We share a judicial district. We are in the same conservation districts. We are in the same economic development districts. But then we also work together within these park issues that I represent. We work together as a team within our floodings in the past decade. Fayette County raised large amounts of money and went and worked in Hinton and Ronceverte and in Greenbrier and White Sulphur Springs in mass as groups. They're our neighbors, they're our friends. We feel the 10th should remain the 10th for counties that have compelling reasons, because we are neighbors, we are friends, and we are economically involved with each other to a degree that I don't think any other group, any other existing senatorial district can claim. With that, I beg that you consider keeping the 10th intact, and I also have great fears for the way Fayette County, as far as the House of Delegates, might be chopped up. But these are the fears that we will all sit around and have. The conversation that we need single districts, delegate districts. I view having 3 delegates as an opportunity. If one doesn't get the job done, I have an opportunity to go to 2 others and say, hey, come on. But with that, I appreciate your time. Senator, thank you for giving me a couple minutes. Again, I apologize, I rolled in late.
No worries. And thank you very much for coming over and for sharing your thoughts with us. All right, is there anybody else? I see another hand. Yes, please come forward and tell us your name and on whose behalf you appear, if that's a group or an organization. Floor is yours.
Trevor Morris, and I'm from St. Albans, and
You said Trevor?
Trevor Morris.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
I'm from St. Albans, and I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I just think we need more representation, like David said, from our neighborhoods. We need our delegates to walk down our streets to experience what we experience in our neighborhoods. We don't have anybody from St. Albans or Nitro that represents us. And we need people from that end of the county to be representing that end of the county. We need to break it up, and we need to do single-member districts. We need to cooperate with the state law and make these single-member districts. It would just make it easier for most people, because I talk to a lot of people, and most people don't know their delegates, most people don't know their senators, and that's because they have multiple senators and delegates, and they only know the one they voted for. And I just think we need to make it single-member districts, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for your input. Okay, anybody else who didn't get a chance to sign up and would like to address the members of the joint committee who are here? If not, we'll sort of draw this to a close. I have in my pocket, and these are, I hope everybody was able to get one of these. They were at the sign-up table as we were coming in. But this is a little brochure that's been put together by staff of the Redistricting Committee. And it has on it the current maps, of course, the ones that have been in place for 10 years. But it has on it information about how anybody who wants to can contact us further, make further comments. Those who spoke tonight, those who didn't, anybody, if somebody thinks of something that he or she wishes he added or said, we're accepting those comments digitally. We're posting them. They're being posted to the Joint Redistricting Committee's website. Same with maps. Thornton Cooper has promised us another map, but we've already posted one or more of maps that he has submitted. And any member of the public who wants to send us maps, we will post them and make sure everybody, members of the legislature and members of the public, get a chance to look at them and can offer comments on them, whether you think a map is a great idea or a bad idea. But that information on how you do that or accomplish it is all in this brochure. So anybody who didn't get one is invited and encouraged to do so. I did want to say, when I came in earlier, I thought I saw Natalie Tennant. Is Natalie still here? Okay. So I do want to, on behalf of our joint committee, thank everybody for coming. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Randall Reed Smith and his efforts to make the space available to us and his excellent work here at the museum on behalf of the State Division of Culture and History. And Garrett, anything else? Anything else you want to say? All right. Thank you all very much for being here tonight and for helping us, helping educate us. We're grateful. Have a great evening.